Once each year, some of the world's most powerful people meet in Davos, Switzerland. The meeting is called the World Economic Forum, and attendance is by invitation only. The attendees gather to discuss the future course of the world and what can be done about it. The World Economic Forum is meeting this week. Very important announcement. I will be in Gainesville, Florida this coming Saturday evening, January the 26th. I will be speaking there on Trump, Jerusalem, Armageddon. Now that may appear to be a novel title to you, but believe me, every person needs to hear this particular lesson. It will open your eyes to why we are in such chaos right now. Why so much political conflict? And why did President Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel cause such a radical reaction from the world community? You'll understand it all, and you'll also understand how it's all going to turn out. So that's this coming Saturday night, January the 26th at 6 p.m., and that will be at the Pentecostals of Gainesville. 8105 Northwest 23rd Avenue, Gainesville, Florida. And then the very next morning at 10 a.m., I'll be right back at the same location, and I'm going to be speaking on breaking prophetic fulfillments. Many, many things you will never have heard before, but very, very important. That'll be Sunday morning at 10 a.m. That's January the 27th. And then there will be a time for questions from the floor. So you may have a question you've always wanted to ask about Bible prophecy. Well, we'll be opening the floor to those questions, and I will be attempting to supply the answers. So mark your calendar right now. If there's something in the way, cancel it. Make sure you're there. I'm going to be very much looking forward to seeing you. Let me give you the address one more time. 8105 Northwest 23rd Avenue, Gainesville, Florida. Okay. We want to talk today about the World Economic Forum. Sounds a little boring, and we may even wonder if it's important. Well, it is. I'm sure that you've heard about the Bilderbergers, and I'm sure you've heard about the Council on Foreign Relations, and you may have heard about the Trilateral Commission. These are meetings, international meetings that are held around the world, but most of them were kept quite secret for a long time until more recently. More recently, these organizations feel like that they are so powerful they have to no longer keep their agenda in secret. They've somewhat come out of the closet, and they meet together, and the people who meet are some of the most prominent names in the entire world. They are people that control multiplied billions of dollars. They control huge corporations. Some corporations have a greater financial muscle than some nations. It's that big. When these meetings come together, you cannot just pop up and attend. It's by invitation only. So what goes on in these meetings? The reason I'm talking about this is because the World Economic Forum is one of the foremost of these meetings, and it started its sessions this morning on Tuesday. Now, the World Economic Forum was founded in 1971 by Klaus Schwab, a German-born Jewish business professor at the University of Geneva. The World Economic Forum strives to be impartial, these are their words, and is not tied to any political, partisan, or national interest. The foundation is committed to improving the state of the world. Sounds good enough. The forum is chaired by founder and executive chairman Professor Klaus Schwab and is guided by a board of trustees that is made up of leaders from business, politics, academia, and civil society. Now, you're going to see in a moment why all this is important. The flagship event of the World Economic Forum is the invitation-only annual meeting held at the end of January in Davos, Switzerland, bringing together chief executive officers from its 1,000 member companies, as well as selected politicians, representatives from academia, the NGOs, religious leaders, and media in an alpine environment. Now, you would like to know who are some of these people. Well, some who have attended are such people as Robert Zoellick, formerly the head of the World Bank, Nicolas Sarkozy, formerly the president of France, Ban Ki-moon, formerly the Secretary General of the United Nations, Angela Merkel, who is presently the head of Germany, Gordon Brown, ex-head of Great Britain. Well, there's several others I want to relate to you, but you sort of get the idea. These are people with incredible influence, and that's what this is all about.
We've seen Bible prophecy fulfilled like never before. From the halls of the United Nations to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, Endtime Ministries continues to reveal the Bible prophecy in the news headlines around the world every day. Whether it's through our broadcast or online at our Jerusalem Prophecy College, your gifts enable us to put vital materials in the hands of those who need it most. Because of you, we continue to replace fear with faith in the hearts of Christians around the world. We will continue to see prophecy come to pass at an even swifter pace. We need your support. Your donation of any amount enables us to continue to broadcast and be a voice in the ever-growing censored media. To become a partner or give a one-time gift, visit endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME right now. That's 800-363-8463. Go online now. Visit endtime.com.
I have left a piece of my heart in Israel and her people. We would like to thank Endtime for doing such an awesome job with our Israel tour. We marvel at your team keeping the time schedule, keeping everyone comfortable, the wonderful driver, the brilliant guide, the entire tour program, good hotel choices, and stellar food. We had the privilege to rub shoulders with Pastor Baxter, listen to his current teachings, and had some interesting questions and so eloquently. He is wonderful. Helene from Australia.
Experience the Holy Land in the most amazing way. Join Irvin and Judy Baxter for our upcoming Israel tour. For more information, go to endtime.com or call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
We're talking today about the World Economic Forum that is meeting right now, starting this morning, Tuesday, the 22nd of January in Davos, Switzerland. In addition to some of those I mentioned who have attended, all very famous people, there's also Mr. David Cameron, who was the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Queen Rania of Jordan, Dmitry Medvedev, formerly the president and also has been Prime Minister of Russia, Barney Frank from the United States, Kofi Annan, former Secretary General of the United Nations. Other regular Davos attendees include Al Gore, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Orrin Hatch, and Mr. Tony Blair. Past attendees include Donald Trump, Mr. Erdogan of Turkey, Henry Kissinger, Nelson Mandela, and Yasser Arafat. So as you can see, we're talking about the people who sit at the pinnacles of power in our world. So when they meet together, this is all unofficial, it's not under any governmental control, and many of their sessions are not open to the public. They're conducted behind closed doors. Now, some of their sessions are open to the public and are available on the internet, the ones they want us to hear. But it's those that they don't want us to hear that we really want to hear, right? We want to know what's going on. What are you planning behind closed doors? We're going to delve into it a little bit today, and I do have some information for you because I obtained a little information about Davos 2019 that just begun this morning. First of all, here's what to watch for at this year's World Economic Forum. World leaders will converge to discuss 1, climate change, 2, cooperation, and 3, globalization. Now, don't brush over this lightly. This information comes from Financial Times, just published yesterday. And of course, Financial Times is a daily publication that's probably the most widely read economic publication in the entire world. It said in that particular article that the World Economic Forum asked its members to rank their worries ahead of this year's event. And this year's worry list was dominated by climate change concerns. Now, this is interesting. I guess one reason I'm interested is because I'm not a bit worried about climate change. I know it's going to change tomorrow. It's going to be a little cooler tomorrow, and it'll be warmer, and we may have a sudden drop in temperatures, and the next thing you know, the news media will be predicting the coming ice age. I mean, they've been pounding the global warming drum for 20 years now, and it hasn't warmed 1 degree. So they may change their mind because they did before. Back in 1975, Time magazine published a huge article on the coming ice age. So anyway, but here are all these brilliant world leaders heading up all of these very powerful and prestigious corporations. This is what's on their mind today. They have become a believer in what we call climate change. They believe that that's the most critical issue we're facing today, even though President Trump doesn't think so. And many others, some 30,000 scientists signed a document saying all of the evidence, all of the opinions that have been put together by many of the climate scientists, they don't agree with whatsoever, and they show the fallacies of it and how the evidence have been built. But nevertheless, if you want to believe in climate change, not a problem. You can go right ahead. But these world leaders are going to be discussing climate change, number one, cooperation, and globalization. Another big word. Well, what is globalization? Well, globalization is the process of moving from the nation-state structure of our world to a system of global government. We're in the process of globalizing the world right now. However, Mr. Donald Trump is messing things up. Now, it's interesting that he was supposed to be here at Davos, Switzerland this year. However, because of the economic crisis and because part of our government is shut down, President Trump said, I can't leave my nation while we have this crisis going on. So he didn't go. There were others who planned to go from the government. However, President Trump said, no, we can't afford to spend the money. We have American workers that are going without pay. Therefore, Mr. Pompeo, our Secretary of State, who planned to be there, he didn't go. He did, however, give a speech by way of satellite, and we'll give you some of the points he made in his speech in just a little bit. Okay, now, one of the things that's really being pushed by Mr. Schwab himself, the founder and president of the World Economic Forum, he is pushing Globalization 4.0. So what does Globalization 4.0 mean? Well, this is just a couple of the excerpts from his particular article. But populist discourse eludes and often confounds the substantive distinctions between two concepts, globalization and globalism. Do y'all remember when President Trump brought that name of globalism up at the first Republican debate back when we saw all 17 candidates standing across the platform? And he started speaking about globalization, and everybody looked around, what? What's he talking about? Well, I didn't, because I knew what globalization was. I had been fighting it for a long time. Globalization is simply the process of moving into a one-world government. Well, anyway, the two definitions that were given in this particular article, Globalization 4.0, what does it mean? One, globalization is a phenomenon driven by technology and the movement of ideas, people, and goods. However, globalism, according to this writer, is an ideology that prioritizes the neoliberal global order over national interests. No, okay, so we're talking about global order has to take priority over national interest. Nobody can deny that we are living in a globalized world, but whether all our policies should be globalist is highly debatable. Now, we have been moving toward globalism here in the United States of America for a long time. The Bushes, the Clintons, and then finally Mr. Obama himself, they were working very rapidly toward globalism. They believed in ruling the world by multilateralism through the United Nations. And Hillary Clinton fully intended to finish what Barack Obama had begun. However, President Trump appeared on the world scene and started banging away and fighting against globalism and saying we don't need a global government. We don't need a world without borders. We don't need anybody coming into the United States that wants to come here. We need to properly vet them. Well, to the chagrin of many of the globalists, President Trump won the election. Now, that's the reason they are fighting him so hard, is because they have been working for 100 years to gently push the American people and the nation of America into a one-world governmental system. However, as they were making huge progress, and it was going so rapidly, remember, Hillary Clinton said, we don't need walls, we need borders, and that was her campaign. However, the American people agreed with President Trump more than candidate Clinton. Consequently, he became the next president of the United States. But at Davos, Switzerland, today, tomorrow, the next day, and the next day, they're going to be talking about globalization and why it's so important. Now, here's a quote that was given before Davos this year to just get us ready. This comes from Antonio Guterres. You say, I don't have a clue who that is. Well, you should, because he's the head of the one world government right now. He's the Secretary General of the United Nations. Before he took this job, he was the president of the Socialist International. So a socialist is the head of the UN, huh? There's some socialists trying to become the head of the United States of America right now. I thought we didn't believe in Marxism. I mean, socialism and Marxism, it's the same thing. I thought that Marxism, everywhere it's been tried, has failed. China, Soviet Union, Venezuela. But here, Mr. Socialist himself, he was one of the main people that pushed the treaty that became the Constitution for the European Union in Europe. He pushed it through. He was on the committee that drew up the Constitution for the European Union, and then he was rewarded by being kicked upstairs and become the head of the United Nations. Anyway, Mr. Antonio Guterres, in a special address to the meeting on Thursday morning, will build on a message by doubling down on his recent stark climate warnings. The Secretary General of the United Nations will also sound the alarm on the state of global collaboration. Does the global community have the will and the power to address the existential challenges facing humanity? You know what they're saying? If we don't do something within the next 2 years about global warming, about climate change, it may be too late. Now, they were saying this, 10 years ago? I remember Al Gore stating that emphatically. And the next winter, we had the coldest winter we've had in a long, long time. Where is Al Gore when you need him? Anyway, that's what is going on. The head of the United Nations says that we must talk about globalism, climate change, and cooperation in the international community. Now, in the meantime, an article was published on the World Economic Forum website a few days ago, and it's entitled "The Fourth Industrial Revolution: What It Means and How to Respond." Now, I'm reading many articles right now that are saying the world is on the brink of a revolution bigger than anything ever before. Now, that's a big statement. One article I read said, the revolution we are facing will change the world more than electricity. It will change the world more than the invention of the automobile. Are you kidding me? That's what they're saying. So how could that be? Well, our world is getting ready to make a quantum shift, because now then the internet is so pervasive, all of us are on it, and yet they're getting ready to come out with internet speeds 10 to 100 times as fast as what we're using the latest technology right now. Right now, on your cell phone and mine, you're probably on G4 technology. You might still be back in G3, but most of us are operating now at G4. You say, I don't even know what G is. Well, G stands for generation. We had generation 3 technology. It was slow. It was hard to download videos. Then we had generation 4 technology, much better. We're operating off of that now. But still, sometimes you find yourself watching the little wheel in the middle of your screen twirl. Well, this new technology that's already coming out right now, there are 10 pilot cities in the United States where they're going to be experimenting with it and testing it. And this technology is called G5. It will be 10 to 100 times as fast. And because we have such fast internet, we're now going to have the ability to really implement driverless cars, because they will be able to react so absolutely rapidly. And plus that, it is going to help in so many other ways. They are claiming that when G5 technology becomes fully implemented, and they're working on it right now, 2019, but when it becomes fully implemented, that they'll be able to track everything on Earth. Every piece of gum, every piece of printing, every automobile, every bike, every billfold, every hanky, everything, including you. Yes, they'll know where you are at every minute. They'll be able to track you 24/7. Well, you say, oh, I don't think so. Well, they almost can now. I mean, you get in your car and you want to go over to the local pizza place, you just say, nearest pizza shop, Siri. And she says, well, how about this one? You say, that one will be fine. Would you like for me to give you directions? Yes. Boom, up come the directions. And then she guides you right over there. You know why? Because she knows where you are. Now, she doesn't even exist. She's a computer. And yet that computer is able to store all of that knowledge, and somebody has access to all of that. So this is one of the things they're discussing at the World Forum, is the implications of G5 technology and how it's going to dramatically change our world. So let me read it again to you. These are the words of, I think, Mr. Schwab himself. We stand on the brink of a technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, work, and relate to one another in its scale, scope, and complexity, the transformation will be unlike anything humankind has experienced before. Oh, wait a minute. Wait. We better read that one more time. This technological revolution, in its scale, scope, and complexity, the transformation will be unlike anything humankind has experienced before. Now, that's a concerning statement. Now, I love technology. I like to have the fastest and the latest and the greatest. However, when you start thinking about tracking every person on earth all the time, that means no privacy left. You're going to be watched all the time. Now, we know already, you hear the reports of maybe there being domestic violence, and a man says, I wasn't even there. And all of a sudden they subpoena his phone records, and they track him all over the city with a time clock framed to it in the report, and they can tell where he is to the minute. And there have been many people convicted, and they're behind bars today because knowledge is so pervasive. Now, I'm not saying that that's not a good thing when that is concerned, but when we lose all privacy, we've lost something precious. Nevertheless, that's what's going on right now. So I just wanted to make sure that you all understand that we're on the brink of G5 technology. It's going to change everything. One man said more than the automobile, more the invention of electricity. Hard to believe, right? That's huge. But that's what the scientists are saying right now. They are saying that that's what's going to happen. Well, I hope you can stay with us for the next half of the program. We'll be back.
Move Mountains with Irvin Baxter. This book by Irvin's grandson provides 30 days of devotion that will enhance your relationship with God and others. Authentic illustrations from early morning devotions at Endtime will help you find your purpose and eliminate fears. Commit to taking this 30-day journey and experience real life change. Get your book for only $14.99. Call 1-800-363-8463 or go to endtime.com/move.
If ever people needed to hear the unvarnished truth, it is now. There are some subjects that are not politically correct to talk about, but they're urgent. That's why I'm grateful for Endtime magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you're missing information that will impact your life. Endtime has a bi-monthly magazine that explains how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. You can get a 2-year subscription for only $29. You can also get a bulk subscription and pass them out to your church. We have gotten reports that Endtime magazine has caused spiritual awakenings in churches when they see the prophecies being fulfilled right now. You can start your own ministry and leave them in doctors' offices, libraries, laundromats. You never know if you might be responsible for saving someone who is searching for the unvarnished truth. That's what the magazine has done in many lives. Call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 and get your subscription today.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archive button.
We will be taking your calls in this segment of the program. The number to call to be on the air with me, 877-END-TIME. That's 877-363-8463. If you'd like to reach our operators, perhaps you want to inquire about our tour. Maybe you want to inquire about becoming a partner with Endtime Ministries. Perhaps you would like to subscribe to the Endtime magazine. I would really encourage you to do that, because the latest edition just out, you need to get a copy of. I am dealing with, in that issue, globalization versus national sovereignty. the most important political issue of our time. And see why I say that, because we're in a battle right now. Anyway, to reach our operators, that number's 800 in time. To be on the air with me, 877 in time. So start dialing right now. We have some open lines and you can get on right now. Now, while you're doing that, I'd like to remind you that I will be speaking this coming Saturday evening in Gainesville, Florida. My subject, Trump, Jerusalem, Armageddon. And this is not a political speech. It is from your Bible, believe it or not. That's Saturday night, January the 26th at 6 p.m. The location, the Pentecostals of Gainesville, 8105 Northwest 23rd Avenue, Gainesville, Florida. And then the very next morning at 10 a.m., same location, I will be speaking on breaking prophetic fulfillments. I'll be letting you see things that are happening right now or are about to happen. So that will be Sunday morning, January the 27th at 10 a.m. And then after I speak on breaking prophetic fulfillments, I'll be taking your questions from the floor. So it's going to be a great time. People love that part of our conferences. So you can call in right away. One more thing I want to tell you while you're still dialing, and please go ahead and get started. We still have a few lines open, but I wanted to tell you what happened this morning. This morning, Mr. Mike Pompeo, our Secretary of State, delivered remarks to the World Economic Forum, and he said this morning that preparations are underway for President Trump's peace plan to be unveiled after Israeli elections. Those elections will happen on April the 9th. Listen to this. Speaking by way of video link to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, the secretary said that there is a path forward for the administration to bring Israelis and Palestinians together. That is despite a breakdown in relations between Washington and Ramallah ever since U.S. President Donald Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital 1 year ago. It goes on to say peace talks will not be driven by the U.S., but by Israelis and Palestinians themselves, Pompeo said. But he did reference to a U.S.-led process that could launch after Israelis go to the polls. So very interesting to see that insight straight from the mouth of our Secretary of State. Had many other things to say. All right, let's get right back and let's get started on the phones today. First of all, Anna is calling from Florida. And Anna, welcome to End of the Age.
Yes, Brother Baxter, when it says, I believe it's in Daniel, when it says he's asking how long will this be, and then he goes, and until the power of the holy people has been broken. The holy people, is that the Christians or is that Israel? I know that America will be the wings of an eagle, but would that be at the very end, then we would all be broken? Or can you expound on that, and I'll listen off the air?
Yeah, and you're talking from the 12th chapter of the book of Daniel, and it starts out with, then shall the angel Michael stand up, the angel of your people, speaking to Daniel, of the angel of the Jewish people, for then shall be a time of trouble such as never been before, nor ever again shall be, speaking of the great tribulation. Then he continues on until finally he tells us how long this is going to last. I think it's verse 7 or 8 of that chapter. It says it will last for a time, times, and half a time. A time is 1 year, times is 2 years, a half a time is half of a year. And then it says, finally, though, when the power of the holy people shall be broken. So you're right in thinking that this is going to happen at the end of the Great Tribulation. The 3.5 years that the Bible calls the Great Tribulation will be a struggle between God's people and Satan's people. We're going to be having the greatest revival the world has ever known. God's two witnesses will be preaching. Also, the world is also going to be moving toward the most powerful world government it's ever had. The leader of that world government, the Antichrist, will be forcing people to conform to his rulership and his concepts, or else. So it's going to be great conflict. Then we're going to lose. Now, this is the part I don't like telling everybody. But yes, we're going to lose right at the end, just before we win. You know, for some reason, God likes to do this to Satan. Do you remember when Jesus was crucified and the disciples were weeping and crying and they had lost their hope? And after a day or so, Peter said, I'm going fishing. The other disciples said, if you're going fishing, we're going with you. Because they thought their dream was over. Because Jesus said on the cross, it is finished. They thought that's it. However, 3 days later, he walked out of that tomb with the keys of death and hell in his hand, because it's not over when it's over. And it's going to look like it's over for us. We're going to lose just before we win. And you're absolutely right, Anna. When you're talking about when this would occur, you're talking about right at the very end. It's going to look like that Satan is going to utterly destroy everything in his path. It's going to look like, now I can't tell you all the details, whether that pertains to what will be going on in America right then or not. I can't tell you that. But as a general rule, though, the Bible plainly says there that the power of the holy people shall be broken, and that will include both Jew and Gentile at that particular time. So thank you very much, Anna. Good question, by the way. And we do have open lines today, which is pretty rare. I am making this broadcast from Alexandria, Louisiana, where I'll be attending a conference for the next couple of days. But I am making this broadcast from my room live right now. So if you'd like to be on the air and talk with us, just give us a call. The number to call is 877-END-TIME, 877-363-8463. So many things are happening. An article appeared. This article appeared within the last day or so. Hamas is saying that Chad's relations with Israel are a stab in the back of the Palestinians. Now, what happened was President Netanyahu went to Chad and visited the president of Chad, who is Muslim. And Hamas is just so angry about this. They call it a stab in the back. Well, let me tell you, there are many Arab countries that are gravitating toward Israel right now, and they are going to push this peace plan through, at least some peace plan. If it's not this one, it will be another one, because the Bible predicts it will be so. Okay, let's get right back to the phones now. And Mary wants to know from Facebook, the white horse in Revelation chapter 6, is that the same white horse that Jesus comes back on? The answer is no. The white horse in Revelation 6, when it talks about the four seals, it is talking about four spirits that are dominating and fighting for the allegiance of men. The white horse is Catholicism, the red horse is communism, the black horse is capitalism, and the last horse, King James says pale, but the correct translation was green. The green horse is Islamism. That's the official color of Islam. So no, it's not the same white horse in Revelation chapter 6. It's not the white horse that Jesus Christ will come back on. Let's go now to Gary. Gary's calling from Texas. Hello, Gary.
Yes, Irvin, how are you?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Good, thank you. I'm wondering, what is the difference between globalism and globalization, if there is any? And then I have one more quick question after that, if possible.
Yes, I did not know there was a difference until today. I was preparing for this broadcast, and I stumbled across this article because they're going to be discussing a thing called Globalization 4.0. And the writer defines what that means. He says, whether this is accurate or not, this was his opinion. Globalization is a phenomenon driven by technology and the movement of ideas, people, and goods. Then he says globalism is an ideology that prioritizes the neoliberal global order over national interest. So he says that globalism is the belief that the global order should supersede national interest, but he described globalization as the process of the internet speeding up, jet airplane travel, the world shrinking because information moves with the speed of light. And so he says that globalization is the phenomenon of all those developments, but globalism is once a person actually adopts an ideology that there must be a global government. So that was the way that's the way I read his article.
So globalism versus Americanism is what we're kind of talking about here, I guess.
Yeah, globalism is one world government, whereas President Trump, of course, has come along and he has tried to reverse the powers of globalism, which were moving ahead very rapidly. He's trying to reverse all that, and he's trying to say, no, you can't, not just anybody that wants to can walk in and become part of America. We don't want you bringing your weird ideologies with you. We are a nation that's been blessed because we're founded on the Judeo-Christian values. And if you come in here and you bring weird new religions and all these things that we don't believe will build a successful nation, then we want the right to say, no, we just don't really feel like you fit here. So that's my understanding.
Great. And do you have time for me to ask one more question?
Yes, I do. Go ahead.
Thank you. What is the name of the 10-nation organization that Emmanuel Macron has developed?
It's the European Intervention Initiative, and the short for it is EII. So that's a really, a really awkward name in my opinion, but that's what they're calling it, the European Intervention Initiative. He wanted to develop a military that could intervene any place in Europe or any place in the world where Europe felt like it's in their interest to intervene, but they want this to be separate from NATO because anything that NATO does now is under the veto power of the United States of America. They don't want to have to ask America for anything. They want to be able to function as a United States of Europe. So it's European Intervention Initiative. Thank you very much for the phone call, and we'll be right back in just a moment, right after this break. And I think we may get to all of your calls if we can move right along. So you're listening to End of the Age.
Many Christians admit end-time Bible prophecy is very complex and difficult to understand, and for some, a little bit scary. But what if you could understand Bible prophecy? What if you could know what will happen and how the United States will play a key role during end-time events? When you call today and get Understanding the End Time DVD curriculum, you can have peace about what is to come, while understanding the prophetic events that appear in our headlines every day. When you call or go online to endtime.com and order, you'll learn the answer to the biggest prophecy question of all. Will the rapture take place, and when will it happen? This 14-part DVD series is the definitive end-time prophecy Bible study available. And for this limited time, you can get it for just $149. Don't miss this special offer. Understanding the End Time. Call now, 1-800-363-8463. That's 1-800-END-TIME. Or go to endtime.com today.
If you joined us late, the World Economic Forum kicked off today in Davos, Switzerland, and that's where some of the most powerful people on earth and very powerful corporations, they meet together to discuss the challenges facing the world and probably more importantly, the direction the world should move. And one of the things is definitely They're discussing what they must do to counteract climate change, which many of them believe in to the point of it becoming a religion to them. Plus, they will be discussing the huge revolution that we're facing right now when everything speeds up by 10 to 100 times. I'm talking about this new generation of internet speed that will be 10 to 100 times as fast as what you're experiencing now. That makes all the computers go incredibly faster. It's going to be amazing for everything. So anyway, that's what we've been talking about today. Let's get right back to the phones. Right now, Renee's calling from Texas. Hi, Renee.
Hi, Brother Baxter. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you so much.
The reason for my call is I had heard from time to time someone calling about the recent 4 blood moons we had, and in light of the blood moon we just had Sunday night, they were all thinking that these were signs for Jesus' return, and I never saw it as that. How be it, I went to one of your seminars talking about that, and what I gathered about it, it was just a sign that something did happen, and that was, I believe, when all the influx of Muslims, the immigrants, went to Europe. When thinking about a sign, I thought it was about something like that, not about Jesus. And I was just telling people this, and I had one son to ridicule me, but I just thought that wanted your understanding on it.
Yeah, well, Renee, many people were intimating that when the 4 blood moons happened back in 2014, 2015, that some big event was going to occur, and many of them were intimating that it would be the rapture. Now, consequently, I was being bombarded with questions about it, and I told everybody, no, the rapture cannot happen right now. It's just like 50 years before Jesus came, he couldn't come 50 years early. So consequently, we knew the rapture could not happen yet. Now, there's going to be a rapture, and it's coming quickly at us now, but it could not have happened then, and it cannot happen tomorrow. Now, God could catch any of us out into eternity before this day is over. But as far as the planned catching away of the saints and the establishment of the kingdom of God, we're not quite there yet, even though we are very close. So all I would say to you, Renee, is this. It's so dangerous to take random things, acts of nature, and try to say they have biblical significance when there's no proof for that. And it's like the blood moon that we had on Sunday evening. I told everybody, it means nothing. We're going to have another one later on, and another one, and another one, because that's just the normal cycle of the sun, the moon, and the earth. So we don't need to make up things because we lose our credibility. If we say something is biblical, it needs to be biblical, and we need to be able to show the people that. So that's the reason that I discourage people from trying to read things into things that are not really there. Listen, Renee, thank you very much. I want to let you go. I want to go now to Scott calling from Florida. Hello, Scott.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay. It's an honor and a privilege to talk with you, Dr. Baxter.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
And I wanted to know, in the Bible, in the New Testament, the apostles, I believe, were talking to Jesus and asking him about the end of the age, such as, and I wanted to know about this because I haven't heard anybody preach about it. But when they asked him, Jesus, I believe, said, until the full time of the Gentiles will be full. Do you know?
Yes, I do. The Bible teaches several places it does talk about it, but but Jesus said, Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the fullness of the Gentiles be brought in. And there were many people who thought that when Israel captured half of Jerusalem in 1948, that was the fullness of the Gentiles. And then others thought that when Israel captured all of Jerusalem in 1967, that was the fullness of the Gentiles. As a matter of fact, I was holding a revival in a man's church. And when the news came on that they were fighting in Israel, this pastor got up right in the middle of my revival, told all of his people, they're fighting in Israel today, and if they cross that barbed wire fence, we're gone. The rapture's got to happen. Well, they crossed the barbed wire fence the next day, and we were still there. Now, it's not because the rapture isn't going to happen. It is going to happen, but he just misunderstood the timing, and he misunderstood the prophecy. Here's what the Bible tells us. The Bible tells us that blindness hath happened to the Jews have been concluded for, well, let me back up. The Bible says in Romans chapter number 11 that God hath concluded the Gentiles in unbelief, that he might have mercy upon the Gentiles. Then it says, and now he's concluded the Jews in unbelief, that he might have mercy upon the Jews. So God has concluded all in unbelief, that he might have mercy upon all, because he doesn't want us to have salvation because we're better than someone else or because we deserve it. But he put the Gentiles in a time of spiritual darkness, and then he chose to open their eyes, and they rejoiced in that light they saw. Now the Jews have been in darkness for the last 2,000 years, in exile. Horrible. And yet God's going to turn back to them. The Bible says in Romans 11, verse 25 and 26, all Israel shall be saved. So when it talks about, he's dealing principally with the Gentiles right now, but very shortly, maybe within the next year or two, as soon as they sign the peace agreement, he turns back to the Jewish people, but that does not mean he turns away from the Gentiles. It just means his focus is back to the Jewish people. A great revival will start among the Jews, and we will have a Jewish-Gentile church mixed like they had in the early church. But that's what it's talking about. When it talks about, I'm going to take out a people for my name's sake, he has dealt with Jews and Gentiles so that nobody would boast in pride because they were saved, because a Jew is not better than a Gentile, and a Gentile is not better than a Jew. Hope I got the message across, but that's the way I see the fullness of the Gentiles.
Wow, I could feel the Holy Spirit on that. I really believe we serve a wonderful God, that he's giving us the mercy, to include all of us. But I'm so glad you cleared that up for me. Now I got a better grip on it. I thank you, Pastor, and God bless you so much, and I'm praying for your ministry.
Okay, well, thank you as well. Appreciate it very much. Let's go right back to the phones now, and Julio is calling from California. Hello, Julio.
Hi, Pastor. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you very much.
So I had a question about the United States not being a part of the New World Order. I understand everything you say, but I kind of have a different view, maybe, just throwing things out there. What if the reason that we're not a part of the New World Order is because the United States is destroyed? Not so much destroyed as a people, like there's not going to be anyone here left in the land, just as a working government. And when it says that Israel was giving wings, to help the Israel people escape, what if that just means that's our military presence that's already there, not necessarily sending military from here right away over there?
Well, Julio, I've wrestled with this very question for many, many hours. And when I looked at the combo beast of Revelation 13, and it states there the body is of the leopard, Germany, the feet were of the feet of the bear, Russia, the mouth was the mouth of the lion, Great Britain. And I went back to Daniel 7, where the lion was there. We were depicted as coming out of Great Britain, and then we were broken off, which of course happened at the Declaration of Independence. So I asked myself, for several years I wrestled with this. Now, wait a minute. All the powers of Daniel 7 are represented in the combo beast of Revelation 13 when the different nations merge into one and become the one world government. But the eagle's wings. So I wrestle with what happens with the eagle. And I thought, just as you are, that maybe we've just been wiped out. Maybe there's been a nuclear war. Maybe we're out of the picture. However, when I found Revelation chapter number 12, where it says that the woman Israel will be protected by the wings of a great eagle, it made so much sense to me because America is Israel's best friend. I just read an article this week that Benjamin Netanyahu said at the opening of the embassy in Jerusalem, he said, we want to thank President Trump of the United States of America because 70 years ago today, to this very hour, the United States became the first power to recognize the legitimacy of the newborn nation of Israel, 1948. And he said, now the United States is becoming the first power to move their embassy to Jerusalem and to recognize Jerusalem as the capital. And we have been the number one defender of Israel. To me, everything is there that says, yeah, I mean, it's like exactly what's happened. Us moving our embassy there this year, recognizing us being the only nation to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. To me, it is a perfect fulfillment of Revelation chapter 12, verse 13 and 14. That's the way I see the scriptures.
Okay. One more question. Well, not really a question. What if, for example, if I were Russia or, if Gog and Magog, all these countries, if I was going to invade Israel knowing that the United States has their back, wouldn't it be simpler to invade us at the same, or hit us at the same time as they hit Israel, or when they attempt to hit Israel? That way we're too busy here protecting our own than to go over there and back them up.
Well, you put your finger on one of the questions we've not yet resolved, and that is, okay, what's America doing while Russia, Iran, and Turkey are invading Israel at Armageddon, as is described in Ezekiel chapter number 38? Something has happened to America. Either we have got a different president that no longer has the courage and the backbone of Donald Trump, or maybe we're involved in the war that kills 1/3 of mankind, which is described in Revelation chapter number 9, verse number 13 through 21. Maybe we're wiped out. Maybe we've lost our power. Maybe by now we're weaker. The world government is stronger, and that's the reason we're not there. I do not know the answer to that. I've been wrestling back and forth. I don't know, but something is apparently going to leave Israel standing all by herself against the one world governmental system, at which time only their Messiah will save them, and he will. He'll come, he will intervene, and he will save them. Ladies and gentlemen, we're totally out of time. However, you're not out of time to join the Jerusalem Prophecy College. Go to JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. Please don't procrastinate. We need 1,000 graduates. We've got 1,000 enrollees, but we need 1,000 graduates. JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. Register, enroll, let's get to work. See you tomorrow.
This has been End of the Age, brought to you by the faithful partners of Endtime Ministries. If you're not currently a partner with Endtime Ministries, or if you would like more information, we invite you to call us at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463, or visit us online at endtime.com.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page.